After supporting him through law school, you're nothing without me, my brother said. Then the judge opened the envelope. You'd be nothing without me. My brother said it right there in the courtroom hallway. People actually turned to look. I remember staring at him because I honestly thought I had misheard him. I was the one who had spent 7 years helping him get through law school. I was the one who paid his rent when he couldn't. I was the one who worked double shifts so he could focus on exams. And now he was standing in an expensive suit, looking at me like I was some loser who had ridden his coattails. I should have walked away. Instead, I asked, "Excuse me?" He smirked. "You heard me, Ethan. Everybody here knows who succeeded and who didn't." My chest tightened. I looked at my younger brother Mason, and for a second I didn't recognize him. Then he laughed. "You stock shelves at a grocery store. I'm an attorney. That's the difference between us." I didn't say anything because there was nothing to say. Our parents looked uncomfortable, but neither of them defended me. That hurt more than his words. I wish I could say this started when he became a lawyer. It didn't. Our entire lives revolved around Mason. When we were kids in Ohio, my brother was the genius. Straight A's, debate club, honor roll. Teachers adored him. I was average. I wasn't dumb, but I wasn't exceptional either. After our dad died from a heart attack, things got harder. I was 22. Mason was 16. Mom worked part-time at a diner and barely paid the bills. I dropped out of community college and started working full-time. I told myself it was temporary. Then life happened. I got promotions. I paid bills. I helped raise my brother. Years passed. Mason graduated high school and got accepted into a great university. I still remember him crying. "I can't go," he said. "We don't have money." I looked at him and said, "You're going." He frowned. "How? I'll figure it out." And I did. I picked up overtime. I sold my truck. I emptied my savings account. I even moved into a tiny apartment because it was cheaper. I sent him money every month. I paid for books, food, utilities, and everything else. Whenever he called stressed about exams, I stayed on the phone for hours. When he got into law school, I cried. I was proud of him. I felt like our dad would have been proud too. Mom constantly praised him. "My son, the lawyer," she'd say. I didn't mind. I loved my brother. I wanted him to have opportunities I never had. But things slowly changed. At first, it was small. He stopped calling unless he needed money. Then he started sounding irritated whenever I gave him advice. Eventually, he treated me like an employee. "Can you send another 500? I need help with rent. I have networking events." I never complained. Then one Christmas, he brought home some law school friends. One of them asked what I did. "I manage inventory at a grocery store," I said. Mason laughed. "He means he's basically a stocker." Everyone chuckled. I laughed too, but something inside me hurt. After they left, I said, "That wasn't funny." He shrugged. I was joking. It kept happening. Every visit, every conversation, little insults, little reminders that I wasn't educated enough. I tried ignoring it. Then he graduated. Mom threw him a huge party and invited everyone. Relatives, neighbors, and friends filled the house. At dinner, she stood and raised her glass. "To my son, the attorney who changed this family's future." Everybody cheered. I smiled. Then Mom added, "And thank you, Ethan, for supporting him. Every family needs someone willing to sacrifice." I don't know why that sentence hurt. Maybe because it sounded like my entire purpose in life was giving things up. I swallowed it and smiled anyway. A few months later, I found out Mason had been hired by a prestigious firm. I was thrilled. I called him. He barely sounded interested. "Yeah, thanks." Then he changed the subject and asked if I could lend him money again. I said no. For the first time in 7 years, I said no. There was silence. Then he sighed. "Forget it." After that, he barely spoke to me. Mom started calling. "He's under a lot of stress. You know how demanding his career is. Don't make things harder." I couldn't believe it. I had already sacrificed my 20s and most of my 30s helping him. Now I was the bad guy for not continuing. Then things became even stranger. Relatives stopped thanking me for helping Mason. Instead, they started acting like I'd been dependent on him. One aunt actually said, "It's wonderful that Mason helped support you all these years." I laughed because I thought she was joking. She wasn't. I stared at her. "What are you talking about?" She looked confused. "Mason told everyone he paid your rent and took care of Mom while attending law school." I felt sick. I called another relative. Same story. Another one. Same story. My own brother had rewritten history. He had told the entire family that he was the one sacrificing for us. I confronted him. He didn't even look guilty. People misunderstand things. "No, you lied." He crossed his arms. "Does it matter?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You know exactly what I did for you." He looked annoyed. "You chose to help." "Because I loved you." He shrugged. "I never forced you. I just stared at him. Then he said something I'll never forget. Honestly, Ethan, I can't spend my life feeling indebted to you." That was the moment something broke inside me. I stopped calling, stopped texting. I focused on myself. 6 months later, Mom called crying. Apparently, Mason was suing his former landlord. There was some dispute over unpaid rent from years earlier. The landlord claimed Mason had owed thousands of dollars. Mason denied everything. He insisted he had always paid. Because he was an attorney now, the case attracted attention. Mom begged me to attend. "He needs family support." Against my better judgment, I went. That's where everything exploded. During a recess, we were standing outside the courtroom. I quietly asked Mason if he was nervous. He looked at me with pure contempt. Then he said it. "You'd be nothing without me." I couldn't speak. He kept going. "You should be thanking me. My success gave this family status." I looked at him and finally said, "I paid your rent." He laughed. No, you didn't. I blinked. You know I did. He shook his head. You tell yourself whatever helps you sleep. I felt like I couldn't breathe. Then the bailiff announced the hearing was resuming. Inside the courtroom, the landlord's attorney stood. Your Honour, we recently discovered additional evidence. The judge nodded. The attorney held up a large envelope. We received financial records this morning. Mason looked irritated. Then the attorney opened the envelope. Out came years of bank statements, copies of money orders and payment receipts. Every single rent payment. Every one. Every one. The attorney continued. These records show the defendant did not pay his rent. The payments came from another individual. The judge adjusted his glasses. And who made these payments? The attorney looked directly at me. Ethan Carter. The room went silent. I heard my mother gasp. Mason turned pale. The attorney kept speaking. The defendant repeatedly represented himself as the person making these payments. The evidence demonstrates otherwise. The judge looked at Mason. Counselor, is there an explanation for this? Nothing. Mason couldn't answer. Then the landlord's attorney added something I never expected. We also have emails from the defendant thanking his brother for covering his expenses. He handed them to the judge. I watched Mason's face lose all colour. The judge read quietly. Then he looked up. Mr. Carter, these emails appear to directly contradict your statements. Silence. The judge's expression hardened. Attorneys are officers of the court. Honesty is not optional. For the first time in my life, I saw my younger brother look small. Really small. The hearing ended quickly after that. Outside the courtroom, Mom was crying. She looked at me. You paid for everything? I nodded. She covered her mouth. I didn't know. I wanted to say she should have known. I wanted to ask why she never questioned anything. But I didn't. Then Mason approached. His eyes were red. He looked broken. I'm sorry. I stared at him. I didn't mean for things to get this far. I almost laughed. 7 years. 7 years of sacrifice. Years of lies. Years of disrespect. And he was sorry because he got caught. I simply said, take care of yourself. Then I walked away. A month later, I learned his firm had placed him on leave while reviewing the matter. Several relatives called to apologise. Mom apologised too, over and over. But the apology I needed never came, because it wasn't about money. It wasn't even about gratitude. It was about being erased. I spent years helping my little brother build his dream. Then he rewrote the story and painted himself as the hero. The funny thing is, I don't hate him. I just don't know him anymore. Sometimes the people you sacrifice everything for become strangers, and sometimes karma arrives in a plain manila envelope sitting on a judge's desk. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. 3 weeks after the courtroom incident, my phone rang at 6 a.m. It was my mother. She sounded panicked. Ethan, please answer your door. I frowned. What? Just open the door. I walked to my apartment and looked through the peephole. Mason was standing there. He looked terrible. His expensive suit was wrinkled. His hair was messy. He had dark circles under his eyes. I opened the door halfway. What are you doing here? He looked down. I need to talk. I almost laughed. For years I'd called him and barely gotten a response. Now he was on my doorstep before sunrise. I don't think that's a good idea. Please. I should have closed the door. Instead, I stepped aside. He walked in and sat on my couch. For nearly a minute, neither of us spoke. Then he said, I lost my job. I stared at him. What? They terminated me yesterday. I didn't know what to say. He rubbed his face. The partners said I damaged the firm's reputation. I sat across from him. For the first time in my life, my younger brother looked scared. Not angry, not arrogant, scared. I've sent applications everywhere, he said. Nobody wants me. I stayed quiet. Then he looked at me. I messed up. I nodded once. You did. I lied. Yes. I don't know why. That wasn't true. I knew exactly why. Because little lies had become easier than gratitude. Because admitting someone sacrificed for you means admitting you owe them something. Because pride can grow so large that it swallows everything else. He looked around my apartment. You still live here? Yeah, it's nice. I almost smiled. This was the same apartment he once called depressing. Then he cleared his throat. I need help. There it was. The real reason he came. I leaned back. What kind of help? He hesitated. I can't afford my rent. I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, because the irony was unbelievable. He looked embarrassed. I know how this sounds. Do you? His face turned red. I just need a little time. For a long moment, I looked at him. Then I asked something I had wanted to ask for years. When did you start hating me? He looked stunned. I never hated you. Really? No? I folded my arms. You mocked my job. You lied about me to our family. You acted like I was beneath you. He looked away. I was jealous. I blinked. What? He swallowed. I was jealous of you. I thought I had heard him wrong. Jealous of me? He nodded. You were always okay. I was what? You never needed anyone's approval. I stared at him. He laughed bitterly. I spent my whole life trying to be impressive. I didn't say anything, he continued. I needed perfect grades, perfect internships, the perfect career. He looked at me. You worked hard, paid your bills, helped people, and slept fine at night. I still couldn't believe what I was hearing. You had something I didn't. What? He looked exhausted. Peace. The room became quiet. I had imagined this conversation 1,000 times. I thought he would apologise and blame stress. I thought he would deny everything. I never expected this. Then he said something even stranger. I hated needing you. I frowned. When Dad died, you became the person who fixed everything. I remembered those years. I remembered skipping classes to work extra shifts. I remembered taking him to school, helping him with homework, and buying groceries. I kept telling myself I'd repay you one day, he said, his eyes filled with tears. But the more you helped me, the more ashamed I felt. I slowly sat down. So you lied because you were ashamed? He nodded. At first it was small, then it became bigger and bigger. I rubbed my face. Part of me was angry, part of me was simply tired. Then he quietly said, I don't think I'm a good person. I looked at him. This wasn't the confident attorney from the courthouse. This looked like the 16-year-old kid who cried because he couldn't afford college. I asked, what do you want from me? He took a deep breath. I don't know. For once, I believed him. Then he said, I think I wanted you to tell me everything would be okay. I looked away because that's what I had done his entire life. I was the person who fixed things, the person who reassured everyone, the person who sacrificed, but I couldn't do that anymore. I looked back at him. No, he frowned. No, Mason. I can't tell you everything is okay. He looked hurt. I continued. You lied for years. You destroyed relationships. You humiliated me. His eyes dropped. You don't get to skip the consequences. Silence. Then I said something I had never said before. I'm not responsible for carrying you anymore. He looked like I had slapped him, but I wasn't being cruel. I was finally being honest. A few minutes later, he stood up. I understand. I nodded. At the door, he stopped. I really am sorry. I looked at him. This time, he didn't seem afraid. He seemed sad, and for the first time in years, I believed him. After he left, I sat on my couch for nearly an hour. I realized something. I didn't hate my brother either. I was grieving him. I had spent years loving a version of Mason that no longer existed. Maybe he had changed, or maybe I'd finally seen who he really was. A month later, I got another surprise. There was a knock on my door. It was my mother. She handed me a small box. What's this? She smiled nervously. I've been cleaning. Inside was an old photo album. I opened it. The first picture showed me at 22. I was wearing a grocery store uniform. Next to me stood 16-year-old Mason, holding a report card and smiling. I turned the page. There was another picture. Me teaching him to drive. Another one. Me helping him move into his dorm. Another. Me carrying boxes into his first apartment. I looked up. Mom's eyes were wet. I don't know how I missed it. I frowned. She touched one of the photos. You were there for every important moment in his life. I couldn't speak. She started crying. And I never thanked you properly. I hugged her for the first time in years. She held on and didn't let go. A week later, I received something unexpected in the mail. It was a handwritten letter from Mason. Inside was a single sentence. I spent so much time trying to become successful that I forgot who carried me to the starting line. I read it 3 times, then I folded it and placed it inside the photo album. I still don't know what happens next. Maybe my brother rebuilds his life, maybe he doesn't, maybe one day we're close again, maybe we're not. But I know one thing, for the first time since our father died, I finally stopped carrying everyone else. And strangely enough, setting that weight down felt like becoming my own person again.